This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the town of North Haven.
Good evening. I'd like to convene the April 23rd, 2019 North Haven Fire Commission meeting to order. I would like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, I'd like to ask for the approval of the Board of Fire Commission meeting minutes as of March 26, 2019.
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Second. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The Chief's report.
Chief's report for this month. We'll start with alarms. Alarms as of this time last year, we were at 1439. Present day, we're at 1406, a difference of 33 alarms in a negative. 5 years ago, we were at 1285, which is a difference of 154 more current year than 5 years ago. Since our last Board of Fire Commission meeting, the FDA responded, provided ALS intercepts on 9 different incidents, and on one occasion, we transported the individual. We've had 9 responses to the highway since our last meeting, and 65% of our calls were EMS related. Since our last meeting, 3 incidents in which the FDA experienced a delay in response to a medical or motor vehicle accident, and 3 others in which there was no FDA apparatus to send, meaning that AMR had to respond solo. And again, that would have been a motor vehicle accident or medical incident. Approximately 345 incidents since our last meeting, 81 of which were occurring at the same time, which puts us at 23% of overlapping incidents. That covers our alarms. Our current budget year to date, 89.2%. This time last year, 89.2%. So there's no change there. Since our last Board of Fire Commission meeting, we've collected $13,712 in permit fees, bringing this year's fiscal year total to $448,800. Regarding the Fire Marshal's office, 34 inspections, 5 re-inspections for a total of 39. We found 10 different code violations, 2 of which have since been corrected. The remainder we'll be following up on. We've issued 2 abatement orders and reviewed 37 different plan reviews or permits. Of note, over the last couple of weeks, again, it hasn't been very long since our last meeting, we continue to work with Amazon, and they should be, while the building may not be open for business soon, the building is nearly complete and will be so within the next 30 to 60 days from our standpoint. We work with a lot with 2 on Clintonville Road. There's a lot of modifications being made to 6 Devine Street, which we're heavily involved with, as well as a couple of fire incidents, which we had to investigate. Regarding training, at the last meeting, we've taken advantage of the weather. Several vehicle extrication classes have been taking place, ground ladders, as well as some pre-planning of new construction going on for some of these buildings that are being built throughout town. That's what I have for training. I have a few items for executive session. That's what I have for Chief's report.
Any question of the Chief regarding his report? No. Hearing none, I'll accept the motion to accept.
So moved.
Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Correspondence. Chief, any correspondence?
I have no correspondence other than day-to-day correspondence.
I received 1 correspondence from Mary White, 67 Summer Lane, North Haven, Connecticut, dated April 12, 2019, sent to fire headquarters to my attention. Dear Board of Fire Commissions and Chairman Nuzzolillo, I am writing this letter in response to a recent allegation made against our first responders, our firefighters. They were accused of sexism stemming from the timing of their exit at the budget hearing on April 2nd. I disagree with the allegation, and since I attended the budget hearing, I feel I must set the record straight. To do this, I must start at the beginning. Stacy Yarborough, town clerk for the town of North Haven, stated at the beginning of the meeting, please let every person who comes to the microphone have your courteous regard. Everyone will have a chance to speak. Please limit your comments and questions to 5 to 10 minutes. If you don't get everything you would like to say done the first time, we're going to have everyone who wants to speak go first, and then we'll start again. There were volunteers and career firefighters in dress uniform standing in the back of the auditorium from the moment the meeting started at 7 p.m. There were residents seated throughout the room as well. The firefighters gave courteous regard to all who spoke despite hearing speakers, fire department critics, and misstatements such as the firefighters were instructed to be here in their dress uniform. The fire department overtime hit $799,000 in the year's 17-18 fiscal year. There are serious concerns about hiring new firefighters, specifically how many we need and how they should be deployed. A Monday through Friday day shift with 2 new firefighters was all that we need. The union was not willing to amend their collective bargaining agreement to allow this shift. Private concerns, ambulances should take care of medical calls. The fire experts are shadowy figures who merely point to their expertise and who do not counter arguments. The purchase of a ladder truck should be obtained through other means. After almost 2 hours standing and giving their courteous regard, even when speakers insulted the fire chief and when speakers suggested we only need ambulances and not a water truck for fire suppression, and after all had spoken once, it was time for round 2. Stacy Yarborough stated, "We will keep going around." It was nearly 9 p.m. and volunteer firefighters had been standing for about 2 hours, giving all speakers their courteous regard. And so when it was time for the next round, they left. I am sure they were tired, as I would have been, but they were not the only people who left before the start of the second round. Numerous residents also left. I witnessed them leave because I was seated near them. Women were among them, those residents who left. No one, not the firefighters nor the residents who left, did so because of sexism. The firefighters and the residents who left were free to leave whenever they wished. It was their right. The timing of the exit of those who left before the start of the second round of speakers was about the lateness of the hour. No one had any idea how much longer the meeting would last. No one knew how many more rounds of speakers there would be. Stacy Yarborough had just stated, "We will keep going around." To conclude, just because people and firefighters exercise their freedom, their right to leave the meeting whenever they wanted, does not mean they did so due to sexism, nor does it mean that they were disrespectful. All had given courteous regard as instructed. Thank you for reading this, my letter. With regards, Mary White. Again, any other communications from anyone else? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to unfinished business of the fire department.
Unfinished business, I have a few items listed on your agenda. We'll start with the Connecticut OEMS PSAR application. There's been hearing dates scheduled for May 30th and May 31st after a couple attempts in which either North Haven or the intervener has asked for a alternate date. So at this point, the first hearings will be 5:30 and 5:31. I do not expect those to change unless something really unforeseen happens. The fact that we have 2 dates scheduled is rather indicative that the state is looking to get this hearing heard and underway. Our AFG application for both the PPE and for the apparatus remain as is. We have not heard anything. And we continue to still wait to see what happens with the grants. I still would not expect to hear anything for potentially several months. The training facility located at Northeast here behind the station, just to keep the commission up to date, the landscaping site work is being completed currently. They're just about done. And GM2 Associates, which is the architectural design firm, again, has been retained and is working on a design. And as recently as today, had asked that I have a design for the commission for next month so that you can at least start to get an idea, and I can as well, what the plan is. Replacement of current equipment from this long number here is 184176. This references the Parker Hannafin fire from last calendar year, but this current fiscal year, and we continue to work with the town insurance companies. There's multiple on reimbursement for this, and I'm told that we'll have something very shortly with that. Purchase of a new engine is underway. We've executed a purchase agreement for a new Sutphen engine. It's going to be a new engine with 2,000-gallon pump and a 1,000-gallon tank, similar to what we have now. It will be a larger engine, though, so it'll be a 12-cylinder engine, much larger than the engine itself. mechanical engine in our apparatus. The only concern with this, and it's not, we expected this, which is why we did the special meeting when we did, is we're looking at 11 to 13 months for production. So it's going to be some period of time until we have that. Until that time, we'll continue to make the best of the apparatus that we have, and we're hopeful that the grant will allow us to replace another apparatus, seeing as though we have so many in our fleet that are 25 years of age or older. And that's what I have for unfinished business.
Any questions of the chief regarding unfinished business? New business at the department?
New business, I'm happy to report, this is something that I've wanted to get done for some period of time, is we're working on putting together a volunteer firefighter recruitment video. The interesting thing about this is it's one of our own volunteers who are spearheading this, and without him even realizing it's something I've wanted to do for a while, he's going to make this into something real nice. So he's very familiar with how to create videos and the software, and he's got a lot of ideas, and he and I met earlier this week, and there will be disclaimers signed by anybody who's going to appear in it, but my intent is to have a promotional video that we can start. There will be two different videos put together, a shorter 30 to 60 second video that we can advertise on Facebook and social media, and then a longer 3 to 4 minute or so will be a little more in depth, and it will feature career, but predominantly volunteers and our apparatus and our equipment and our stations and so forth. And we really hope to begin to attract that demographic. We'll take volunteers of any age, of course, but we're going to try to create this for a demographic of the 18 to 30-year-olds or so that we can try to bring in some additional volunteers. I just want to make sure the commission is okay with that. Again, there will be legal paperwork signed that allows it to happen, and it's fully endorsed by my office. I want to make sure the commission has no concerns as we move forward with that.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think whatever we can do to attempt to generate recruitment for volunteers is well worth the time and energy and effort. My expectation is not only will your office sign off on it, I assume the town attorney would have to take a look at whatever the verbiage is to make sure that we're not in jeopardy in any way.
Yeah, there's pretty standard disclaimer for video. That's the only paperwork that we would have anybody sign. Other than that, it's going to be no different than, I don't think it's much different than the police video that when the lip sync challenge not that long ago, there wasn't a whole lot of disclaimers signed for that. So we're just looking to just make sure we got all of our ducks in a row and doing that way.
Good.
Is it going to be a lip sync video?
It's not going to be a lip sync video, no, I promise you. No.
That's good.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
That's all I have.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Public comments. Open for public comments. Yes?
Yes,
Our third selectman.
yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Sally Blamey, 5 Blossom Drive. I had some questions about NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association. We've heard during the budgetary process, not only last year, but this year as well, some references to NFPA standards as justification for the number of new firefighters that have been requested, whether it was 16 last year or 8 or 2, there's been, it's varied. It started last year as 16 over 2 years and 8. But there was many references by several fire department personnel where they referenced the National Fire Protection Association standards. Can you tell me what exactly the NFPA is?
Chief?
So NFPA is a consensus standard that departments are not legally bound to, but it's something where we strive to meet so that if anything ever were to occur, the first thing that court will do is they will pull NFPA standards because it is such a nationally recognized consensus standard.
So what exactly is the NFPA, though? Is it a 501c organization?
No, it's a nationwide organization made up of career and volunteer fire chiefs from throughout the country.
Okay. So it doesn't have, it's not a binding authority, because it's been referred to as a standard, but it's an accepted,
It's a consensus standard.
a consensus by those within the organization? No problem.
Correct.
Okay.
It's cited nationally, right.
Cited nationally as a standard, but it's not a regulatory agency. It has
not.
no binding authority. And it's just an association of career/volunteer firefighters. And I guess at some point they must have promulgated over the years, and I'm sure amended over the years, their standards or recommendations. Is that
Sure, so there's, let's say, 2,000 standards, and they're updated at various times, and there's various committees that are put together to study the next standard or to update a standard, and those standards are published and attempted to be adhered to, and some departments do a better job than others, depending on the status of the department and what standard it is, and that's what happens.
And if I could add, Chief, it's also, when we look at consensus, it's not just the fire department personnel that are on these committees. So if you take like our turnout gear standard for our protective equipment, there'll be a representative from the turnout manufacturing company. There will be a representative from municipal governments, statewide governments, federal governments, so that they will consistently meet in a room and all stakeholders will have a say, and that's for every standard. So there's mayors on the NFPA 1710, which is the staffing committee, that will add their input because they understand that the fire department, they want something different than the municipalities. So
Okay,
as a
so I just-
consensus document, that's what,
Okay, so it is a national organization primarily of career volunteer firefighters and other elements, somehow involved with fire protection do have input in these standards. And they're not binding. What is the binding authority? Is it Connecticut OSHA regulations that are binding on municipal fire departments?
OSHA, right.
Are we currently in violation of any Connecticut OSHA?
Nope, not that I'm aware
And I
of.
would assume that as far as medical, is it the State Office of Emergency Medical Services in Hartford? Are they
Medical in
the-
terms of medical response, or medical in terms of medical practices our firefighters are held to?
I guess medical responses.
So that will be under the state OEMS, Office
The
of
O-
Emergency Medical
yeah,
Services.
Right, I'm familiar with them. Because we hear a lot about, NFPA requires 14 or 15 people, so it's their recommendation, to be at a structure fire. So I just wanted to clarify that the National Fire Protection Association is not binding. One of the questions I have is I'm assuming that you're correct when you say, I've heard 14 and 15 as the standard. I don't know which one it is. It doesn't really matter.
It depends on on-scene utilization of personnel. Some departments operate differently than others, so
But
that's
if-
why there's that range of 14 to 16.
So let's say if NFPA is recommending 15 firefighters at a structure fire, which I've heard you reference in justification for hiring more personnel, why are you not requesting 28 more firefighters? Because that would put 7 more with the 8 that we had, bringing it to 15.
Sure, so what we're trying to do is, if you look at the history of the career department, the whole fire department for that matter, we used to achieve those numbers. We used to achieve the NFPA consensus standard on a number of firefighters on scene. We would do so by having career firefighters respond concurrently with volunteer firefighters, because the career department was created in 1974 to supplement the volunteers. At that time, the volunteers were getting out 2 engines per company, per station, and the engines respectively hold six firefighters at a time. So it wouldn't take much for us to get to the point where we had those number of firefighters on scene. Be a combination of career firefighters and the responding volunteer firefighters. We had that number on scene. What we're trying to do now is make sure that we can try to get to those numbers as often as possible, because we're not seeing that level of response any longer from the volunteers.
Yes,
And so what we're trying to do is make sure that we have the means of getting enough firefighters on scene, and we can't rely solely on mutual aid. So we will call in a surrounding town to give us an engine, to give us 4 firefighters, but we still need to get as close as we can to that 14 to 16 firefighters for every scene, for every fire scene.
But currently, in Connecticut, we're in full compliance with the regulatory authority, which is Connecticut OSHA, and how many do they require?
There's no requirement for them in terms of the number of firefighters on scene. They do require that there be a minimum number of 4 firefighters on scene before interior operations begin. So we have to arrive with at least 4 to
Okay.
make any type of rescue at all in a
I
building.
see. And so, as you said, I would assume if we weren't in compliance with Connecticut OSHA regulations, we wouldn't be able to.
So there will be times that we aren't. I mean, if the ladder truck or the rescue are the only apparatus available and they respond solo to a house fire, they cannot operate inside until additional firefighters arrive. So to say that we're not meeting OSHA, it's a call-by-call specific question.
Right. As you know, Mr. Chairman, you made reference in February 26th meeting that you understand I've done quite a bit of research on my own since this request for originally a 50% increase in staffing occurred. And in fact, you commended me at the February meeting for my research and said, and I quote, that it helped educate a lot of people in town. And you were very complimentary of my efforts. And one of the things that I did when I was consult other fire chiefs in similar municipalities. And by similar, I mean similar population and similar departments as to function, which is a combination of fire and emergency medical services. There are other municipalities very similar to ours in that capacity. And I spoke with several chiefs from those types of municipalities, and they had a lot of interesting comments about NFPA guidelines. I do not have permission, Mr. Chairman, to publicly quote any of the chiefs that I spoke with by name, but one chief said to me, and I quote, "The NFP guidelines are a pipe dream. No small town could ever comply with them." And this particular chief said, as an example of what he meant, I asked him, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, the NFPA guidelines say you need 3 people on a hose. And he said that's impossible. We can never do that, and we get by with 1 and maybe 2, depending upon the circumstances. So that was just the example. So that's why I just wanted to have a better understanding of who this NFPA is. We hear a lot about them from a lot of folks, so I just wanted to clarify that. Also, Mr. Chairman, you might recall at the public hearing, my closing remarks, I gave a personal story about something that happened with my mom 10 years ago. And the purpose of that story was to, hopefully it wasn't lost on those who listened to it, that was to see what could be done going forward in the future to hiring some female firefighter paramedics. Because as you know, although there are some female volunteers, as you well know, volunteers in North Haven are not allowed to go on medical calls, just our career firefighter paramedics do that. And in fact, in my almost 6 years on the Board of Selectmen, I've been contacted quite a few times by North Haven volunteer firefighters asking me for help or complaining to me about the fact that volunteers cannot go on medical calls, because most of the volunteers are qualified as EMTs, and I think even some of them have paramedics. So I have a little history of dealing with some volunteers who would turn to me for help on that issue. But that's not the point of my discussion here. My point is, as you know, volunteers cannot go on medical calls. And yes, we have had a few female volunteers, which I think is great. But we don't have any career firefighter paramedics who are the ones that actually could go in. I was making reference to, serving at the bedside, which was a term that Union President Marino had once used with me, which made a big impression on me, serving at the bedside of our citizens. Only career firefighters could do that. So in light of this issue, what do you think can be done moving forward in the event that we do in fact hire more firefighters for firefighter paramedics? What do you think can be done to attract some female paramedics to serve at the bedside of our citizens?
Well, this commission and certainly the senior management of our department has participated in a regional candidate pool in an attempt to bring on board more persons, both female and persons of color, to our department. Unfortunately, we have not had any applicants from that pool. And Chief, the number of towns that participated in that pool were?
Yeah, so if I may, Chairman,
please.
let me just, a couple of things. So the commission and myself recognized this as a problem about a year and a half, 2 years ago. We had always conducted our own internal testing for firefighters and had individuals apply to our town. And that's worked out well, but in recognizing the need for diversity and the hope that we can attract female candidates. We were one of 11 towns in the state of Connecticut that went on a statewide consortium list, first of its kind ever in the history of the state. North Haven was one of those emerging 11 communities that advertised statewide for entry-level firefighter, and we worked together with 11 different towns and advertised everywhere that you possibly could imagine. And we saved the town money because we didn't have to necessarily test ourselves, although that wasn't our intent. But we ended up with 380-ish firefighters that took the exam throughout the state for those 11 departments. Of those, I'm guessing, don't hold me to it, about 225 were EMTs and about 18 were paramedics. And of the paramedics, which is what we're trying to hire, there were, I want to say, 3 females that were on the list of 18, but none of them had completed CPAT, which is the entry-level physical ability test. So we were prepared to hire a female. We advocated, we changed our entire hiring practices for the first time ever to try to increase the diversity in the department. And to date, when we hired the last couple of candidates, those 3 females, while they had paramedics and while they had the credentials, they had yet to pass a CPAT. And the CPAT is another national consensus exam conducted and sponsored by the NFPA, the IFF, and the IFC. And so we continue. There's nothing saying that we're not going to hire. The only thing I want to mention as well regarding the volunteers responding to EMS is I'd ask you to ask some of the volunteers that it seemed like they want to call you often is, why don't you ask them about, if they're still members of the department, about the vote that they all took collectively within the last year, in which we went to them with an operational plan for the volunteers to respond to medicals in this town. And the consensus amongst the volunteers after a vote was that they do not want to respond to medicals in this town.
Okay, well,
So I gave them that opportunity
that was what, last year?
within the last year.
I'm going back,
Yeah.
Starting from the beginning of my
Well,
tenure.
because I had heard that.
6 years ago, yeah.
Right,
I do
and
get
there's
contacted, and I get
Right.
letters, which I think you've gotten some of the letters that I've received as well.
Sure.
Yeah,
So-
so you know what I'm talking about.
So that's not the case anymore, though.
Yeah, okay. Well, I didn't know about this
Mm-hmm.
vote taken a year ago, but I'm just saying in general, when I made the point at the public hearing that there were no female paramedics going to medical calls, Commissioner Criscola got up and said, well, wait a minute, we do have females in our volunteers. So I was bringing that up mostly so that people understand
Sure.
that the volunteers do not go on the medical calls.
Okay.
But, you know, I've looked at scores of websites of fire departments throughout the state of Connecticut, and, you know, there's always pictures of apparatus and people and standing there by fire engines or by the ambulances or paramedic fly vehicles, whatever, and I always see, I shouldn't say always, but regularly see females, so other towns seem to be hiring them. Now, you said you're trying to hire people already qualified as paramedics. Were the 2 that were just hired a couple months ago, they're already qualified as paramedics?
So we expanded after we tried to hire the paramedics from the existing state list, and a combination of things happened. Either they didn't have all the qualifications, or they're being hired by other departments, because 11 departments trying to hire 18 paramedics, it doesn't leave a whole lot left.
Right.
So at that point, as we have done in the past, in prior application periods, we've opened the candidate pool up to those individuals that were 75% of the way through an accredited paramedic program with positive reviews and no indications all they would fail the program. And so 2 of the 3 candidates we hired were more than 75% of the way through a paramedic program. What we're basically doing is positioning ourselves to hire them now before they finish school in a couple of weeks, and then somebody else is going to grab them. because
I
it is
see.
that competitive of a market for paramedics right now.
It's a good thing to say that for young
It
people
is, yeah,
thinking about
it really is.
Great career
careers,
opportunity.
Yeah,
if they're that much in demand. So the two that were hired recently, and by that you know what I mean, the ones that were hired maybe in January, last month you said they started work in February, were not fully qualified yet as paramedics, but they're training for that now.
they will be done this semester.
This semester, okay. All right, so that clears that up. And, Mr. Chairman, you read under correspondence section a letter from Mary White, a citizen I have great respect for. I've worked with her on issues and agreed with her on issues and disagreed with her on issues. And I have great respect for her, and I have no problem that you read her letter, of course. I think it has some factual inaccuracies in it, but I'll talk to her about that. Obviously, she's addressing a claim that I made at the recent Board of Selectmen meeting, where I thought, I don't think I made a claim that I thought firefighters leaving when I came to the microphone to speak was sexist. I said I thought it was disrespectful. But do you think, Mr. Chairman, that they were tired and that's why they all turned left and walked out the second I got up to go to the microphone? Do you think it was because they were tired?
I think they were there for 2 hours, and it was, they were attentive to the meat of the subject of the meeting. I think they certainly listened to all of the various points of views of the speakers. And it was after 9 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and they left. So I think as far as I'm concerned, they listened attentively for the period of time that they were there for, and they decided that they were going to leave. I don't think it was any disrespect for any of the speakers that were coming up. I think it was just time to leave. And not only did they leave, but other folks left as well.
Not that many,
But there were
a couple,
other people in the audience that
Yeah.
left as well.
Yeah.
So, I didn't see it as being disrespectful in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, I just wanted your opinion on that, because
Yes.
you have publicly stated great respect for me and my work and my dedication to doing what I believe is in the best interest of the town. So I was just interested to hear, the tremendous coincidence that the moment I got up to come to the microphone, the moment I stood up, they turned and left and walked out.
I think
But
you
that-
were
that-
going to be the next speaker
Yeah.
on the second round. They had already attentively stayed there and listened
Right.
to all of the speakers, and I think the general gist of the meeting was absorbed, and they decided to leave.
Right.
So, again, I don't think it was disrespect. I think that they decided that they wanted to leave, and they left.
Right.
Can I respond?
Hold on a second.
I'm still
Hold on a
on
second.
public
Yeah,
comment.
go ahead.
I disagree. I think it was intentional and disrespectful.
Well,
But that, and
You could,
that's, I'm
you
entitled
could, you
to
could
that.
come up to that, that's correct, you
Yeah.
could.
And I thought, and I was very attentive to what some of the firefighters had to say that night. In fact, I thought many of them made some very good points, and I applauded quite resoundingly when they finished speaking, because I thought that many of them made some excellent points, and the thought of me not listening to them would never possibly come into my mind. And in fact, I applauded them quite well. I thought some of them put the department's best foot forward with some of their comments. I do not think they put the department's best foot forward with their display that I think was intentional to leave. As I finished, as you might recall, there was a time limit put on, which I don't recall a time limit in the past at a public hearing. I thought it was, there was a time limit, and I was only allowed to give about 50% of my prepared statement, which I'm holding in my hand right now, and then came back. I was cut off and came back, which I understood. There was a time frame. We all knew about the time frame in the beginning. I had no problem with stopping when I was told to stop, and knowing that I would be able to come back. But I do think that it was an intentional act directed to me, and I just wanted to say that. So you agree, your position is they were just tired and it was time to leave and that they had listened to everything. So I just wanted to know your position.
Well, that is my position. I
Yeah,
think-
the second selectman said something similar.
As volunteers,
Yeah,
they certainly give their time and talent and time away from their families. They train 50 weeks out of the year. They wake up out of bed in the middle of the night to assist our residents, and I don't think that they deserve to be spoken about as being disrespectful. I think they're very respectful, and I think they're very courteous to the residents and business owners and visitors of our town.
Absolutely.
And I think, and again, you're certainly, free to have the opinion that you have, but I don't think they're deserving of that.
Okay.
I mean, when they're doing things at no cost to this town and literally have, throughout the years that the volunteers have served our town, have saved our town millions of dollars in man-hours. I don't believe that they deserve to be spoken to in this way, indicating that they were disrespectful because they didn't stay there for another go-round of some of the comments that were probably repetitive and that they've heard throughout a good period of time, and they knew exactly what they were going to be hearing. And my expectation is that they had to get up and go to work the next day, and they left. So it's not like you and other members of the Board of Selectmen that, you go to 12 meetings a year and you do your thing and, you folks get paid. These people don't get paid. To say that they're disrespectful, I really don't agree with that whatsoever.
Right. Okay, well, I think that it was intentional to walk out when I was
Well,
speaking.
again, you're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah, and I just wanted to know your opinion, and now I know it.
Good.
Yeah, and I think I earn my $60 a week that I make.
Well, I think.
And I don't just attend
look,
Board of Selectmen meetings, I go to Board of Finance and Police Commission,
Well,
and Fire Commission, and,
As third select woman, I mean, you generate $4,600 a year in income. Our volunteers,
Right.
they get nothing.
Right.
And they schedule their time 50 weeks out of the year to train and get out of bed, as I said. So, look, I don't believe they're deserving of that. I don't believe that they are. I don't believe that
think I
they were
was
disrespectful.
deserving of them walking out on me.
Well, again.
Because I did have some important issues that were raised in my second part of my speech.
Well, I'm sure they could hear it on public TV if they wanted to hear it again.
Yes. All right, I have nothing further. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Can I respond
Sure.
to this? In the spirit of full disclosure, I walked out too, because I've heard this song over and over and over again, the same old story, and I wasn't going to sit there and listen to a filibuster about it again. And for you to think that these folks are disrespectful to you, I don't understand if you understand the concept of respect. Respect is something that's earned from people, not given to people. So you somehow feel that your position on the board entitles you to some element of respect. Well, I'm not so sure of that. And even though you mentioned you earn your $16, well, that's fine. But you also have to earn the respect of people who give up their time to serve this town. And to describe them in one of your columns here as childish, I think is unfortunate on your part, especially when they don't come to defend themselves. So I'm defending them.
Right.
And you can respond to that.
Right, well, I thought that them walking out was childish. I didn't call them childish.
You
I thought-
certainly did. You said it
I-
was a childish
Display.
childish display
Yep.
of intolerance.
Yes.
I mean, you have the right to say whatever you want.
Right.
But they also have the right not to have to listen to it.
Absolutely.
Much like
We
I
all-
do.
We all pledged allegiance to the flag at
That's
the beginning
right.
of this meeting.
That's right.
No one is
And
more
a lot of
patriotic.
blood is shed for you to get up and say what you said.
And-
And that same blood is shed for their right to get up and not have to listen to that. It's called civil disobedience.
Right,
Which
right.
I'm sure you're well aware of.
Absolutely.
And,
So,
and if you find fault with that, then it's unfortunate.
well,
And
I
I'm
just,
not gonna apologize for it.
no, I'm not expecting any apology. I just wanted to know what the chairman thought of them
Now you
leaving.
know what
and
the vice
he's-
chairman thought.
And now he said that he thought that perhaps they had to work late, they were standing, they were tired. You're saying specifically that they didn't want to hear.
No, I'm saying they had the right to walk out because they heard this song before.
Okay,
Well, just like I walked out.
right, right.
So it was your second turn around. They heard you the first time. And you had more to say
Right.
that perhaps they didn't want to, they've heard before at a Board of Selectmen meeting, a finance meeting, a budget meeting, because I know I have.
Right.
So that's why I left.
The second half-
It was not a display of disrespect, it was a display of, I don't want to hear it anymore.
Well, the second half of my speech that night was completely different, but that's fine.
Okay, so
They had,
now I understand.
I'm not questioning their right to leave, Mr. Vice Chairman. Of course, they had the right to leave.
Right.
I just thought that it was disrespectful. If you want to say that we should be treated as professionals, as experts, then act like professionals
Well,
and listen to an
They
opposing view.
do, they left,
The
they
chairman,
left as an exhibition, and I hate to speak on their behalf because I don't know this.
Right.
I'm just saying, in my eyes, it was an act of civil disobedience, which they are entitled to do.
absolutely.
Okay.
So you think they left because they didn't want to hear me?
Yeah, no, I'm saying they
Oh.
probably heard it before.
Okay.
And didn't want to hear it again, much like I didn't want to hear it again.
So they
Because
left,
you have a tendency to filibuster points over and over again at every opportunity.
right.
Where you have a pulpit, so
Right.
we don't have to listen to that. I mean,
Okay.
you have the right to say it, you have the right to
Yes.
write about it, you have the right to do whatever you see fit.
Right.
But we also have the right to disagree and to not have to listen to it.
I have no problem with anyone disagreeing with me. I just thought that walking out in that fashion at that moment, it just didn't put the fire department's best foot forward, in my
You
opinion.
know, those people there on their own, they weren't told to come, they were volunteers, not career.
Yes,
You
yes, I know
understand
they
that.
were volunteers.
So they don't have to be there in the first place. So they
Absolutely
can go
not.
whenever they want. If they
Right.
don't like the movie, they're gonna walk out, and that's what happened.
Right, okay. But I take issue that I don't understand respect. I think I do. My father raised me to be very respectful, patriotic person, very respectful of my elders. I think I have a pretty good,
Did he teach you that it's
comprehensive
earned, it's
respect.
something that's earned? and not
Absolutely, and I think I've earned it,
You
which
should
is why I
understand
keep
that.
getting reelected.
So,
So,
well, okay, that's
you
a
know,
discussion
but
for another day. but-
yeah, so I could judge by the volume and types of emails and phone calls that I receive that I have respect of people. But, so I do understand respect. And I have tried to present my arguments based on research, based on what I think is in the best interest of the town, and based on call volume and types of calls. And in fact, there are other people within the town government, Mr. Monaco and Mr. Hallahan in particular, who came to the same conclusions that I did about what would be in the best interest for the fire department moving forward.
Mr. Holler is a Democrat, I take it?
And Mr. Monaco is the Republican chairman of the
Where
Board of
did
Finance.
when did he present this support of yours?
He, after his 7-month study of the fire department and a study group, he concluded that the best way to go with more personnel for the fire department was to hire 2 firefighter paramedics and put them on a Monday through Friday day shift.
And how many years of administrative fire service has he had?
Probably none, but he is the chairman of the Board of Finance and came to the
He's the
same,
chairman of the fire department.
right, I understand,
And
but
it's his assistant chairman who, together with his third chief, have over 60 years of experience. They-
Right.
I think they know what they're talking about when they say who they need and when they need it. And speaking of your research, where did you see these internet sightings of female paramedics?
Just
Was that
going to-
The state, or was that nationally?
No, I mean, here in Connecticut, just going to websites of various
Were they
fire
career
departments.
people, or were they volunteer people?
It's hard to tell from looking at photographs, but, you see, they were obviously in uniform of some type.
Well, we could do that
Yeah.
too, with our volunteers.
Right.
And put out females, but they may not be paramedics.
Right.
And then you're trying to infer that these people were paramedics working for other fire departments in the state.
Well, I'm sure
And why
there
are they
are.
hired and we're not hired?
What I asked was,
question I got.
my question was to the chairman, what he thinks can be done moving forward to attract female firefighter paramedics, and the chief acknowledged that 2 years ago, I think you said, that you acknowledged that as an issue. So I don't think I'm saying anything crazy.
No, you're not.
By asking.
As a matter of fact, we have a female bunkhouse area in our.
And Montauk
in our
East,
new fire. No, in the
And headquarters as well.
Headquarters as well.
Because
And in Montauk
we
East.
want to hire
I know there was a
female
Montauk East.
firefighters.
Right,
We want to hire minority firefighters.
right.
We just can't find them. And if you can find them, please send them to us.
Well, my question was, what could we do moving forward? And I thought it was a very good response that I got from both the chairman and the chief, where they both acknowledged efforts in that regard. The chief acknowledged himself that he saw a need for females, and so...
Absolutely. There's no question about that.
Why is me asking a question looked at as critical of the
Because you're
department?
referring that we're somehow sexist, which you have said in public, that, things have
I did
turned
not-
sexist.
That's-
And that, to me, is one example of where you're getting that from.
No.
That we don't have female.
My claim, if you had stayed for the second half of my...
I watched it on,
Okay, and you heard my claim of sexist behavior was not against the North Haven Fire Department. It was in having to do with the town, in that other male members of our town government, mostly Board of Finance members, with the same opinions as mine, were not called terrorists by members of the fire department, were not criticized.
terrorists, you recall?
Yes, not call, so that was my claim. It had nothing to do with any of my positions about the fire department as sexist, but you left, so you didn't hear that.
But I did see
Yeah,
the
but-
remainder on.
Mr. Chairman, when I asked a few minutes ago, what could be done in the future going forward to maybe hire more to hire some, because there aren't any now, female firefighter paramedics in North Haven. Did you interpret that as a criticism of the department, or did you interpret it as a question by me trying to figure out, what we could do moving forward? I thought the chief and yourself gave excellent answers.
No, I think you're correct. I
So,
think the- I think
are
the
you
chief-
viewing the mere asking of that question, the way the vice chairman is, as a criticism?
I'm not going to pit myself up against the vice chair,
Okay.
or the chief, or
Did you
or
view it
yourself.
as a critical question?
I agree with the vice chair that our commission and our senior managers are looking to hire
Right.
female and paramedics and firefighters of color if the opportunity arises with the credentials and the qualifications that are published. We would welcome the opportunity.
Right.
We as a commission, a year and a half or 2 years ago, when we joined this consortium of 11 towns, came to that conclusion in order to expand our pool of applicants.
Right.
With the hope that we would be able to bring some female paramedics on board to assist at the bedside, as you clearly indicated, is a goal of yours, and it's certainly a goal of ours. Unfortunately, we have not had that pool of applicants to be able to interview and hire.
Right.
With the credentials that we and other municipalities are looking for. So we will continue to strive toward that goal. We'll continue to look to bring female and applicants of color into this department. Unfortunately, at this point, we have been unable to do so.
Right, well, that's why I voiced my question as moving forward, if you might recall. That was-
Absolutely.
And I thought you guys gave a great answer. And this is the first time I've heard from the chief about this consortium with the other 11, and that was the exact answer that I wanted to hear, that there are efforts to widen the scope and range of search. I was, very happy with the answer, and I thought it was a question worth asking, and it was a question well answered. And I hope you didn't interpret it as a criticism.
Not at all.
I
not
mean,
at all.
am I to
think-
be afraid to ask a question to you in the future?
Absolutely.
Because it might be, oh no. let's just be
Absolutely
clear.
not. That's why we have open session for
That's what I
public
thought.
comments.
So my question about hiring female paramedics was one specifically, and I know I said it this right, going forward, what can we do? And I thought you and the chief gave an adequate and well-informed answer that
Good.
I feel much better about, and
Good.
I'm sure that those efforts in the future will continue, and hopefully some people, young people are listening and could make some career choices. I think we even already said that. So, because there seems to be a need, the chief made it very clear that these types of folks are high in demand, so, might be a good career move for young people. And I thought that was clearly established. I thought that question and answer portion of my earlier public comment was quite positive and went well.
Good.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I address just a couple items, please?
Please.
Sal, you could sit, stand. No, I'm fine right here. And I'm happy to see that every time you get to the microphone, and I have a lot of respect for you, you always managed in one of your comments to mention my name, and I'm glad you're listening to me, and I'm happy. First and foremost, it's every meeting that I've attended, whether it's fire commission, whatever meeting, you always say the people you've heard from. I've spoken to this person, to that person, to this person, I got a letter, I got a call, I met them in the street, I met them here. It's always this person, this ghost, okay? You come to a microphone tonight, the same thing, but I can't reveal their name, cloak and dagger. Now you find out that when you spoke to a real professional, he told you, A, volunteers had an option to do medicals, but they didn't want to. But you didn't take the time to ask our chief a year ago. You asked whoever, the ghost. The same thing you do with everything else. It's this person, that person, about apparatus, about this, about that, how many people. We had Eddie Joseph's son, Brian Jost, come up, retired battalion chief in New Haven. He spoke for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, about how many pieces of apparatus should go to a fire, how many men should be deployed to the fire. No one said that we spoke to that chief, and he concurred with our chief. We're still talking about a phantom chief, a phantom disgruntled firefighter, whether he be paid or not paid. So, you of all people should know, you're an attorney. It's all hearsay. I can say I spoke to 60 people, but I can't give you their names. Is it admissible? No. All it is a smoke screen. It's smoke and mirrors, smoke and mirrors. That's number one. You talk about the volunteers. We have the best volunteer department anywhere. They are the best. They came out on their own time, their own dime. They worked all day. They went home, changed, put on their dress blues to be formal. They heard what everyone had to say. When the first round was over, they felt they wanted to leave. They don't have to have a reason. A lot of people left. I spoke a second round. Should I be mad? They didn't listen to me either. I should be mad at them? Absolutely not. I was honored that they even showed up. If they left 10 minutes after it opened, I would have been happy that their presence was made known. That's all. You're picking apart things. Then you say about bedside manners, there were no female at my mom's bed. I'm sorry for that. If we have a 90% female department, 90% female, I want to go 99% female, and your mother called at a specific time on a specific date, and there was the one male paramedic on, would you say I don't want to be treated? I'll wait till later or the next shift? I was in the hospital, I had surgery. I didn't have one male nurse come in my room the whole week I was there. I didn't feel bad. I wasn't feel like a sexist, there's no male nurses. It is what it is. I'm on the Democratic Party with you, and I'm proud to be on that party, okay? The entire executive board is female. Is it sexist? According to you, it is, because there's no males there. But that's fine. They worked very hard to get to where they were. They're intelligent, they worked hard, and they got elected to that seat. And I'm proud they did. I'm proud they did. So I don't know where we're going with this. We should be concerned about safety for the department and for the town. We shouldn't be concerned about anything, about sexism, not having enough females. We have 25% females in the volunteer department. So we have them. And maybe part of the problem, when we go regional, and everyone takes these tests, and then they look and they say, I can go to North Haven for X number of dollars. I can go to Hamden for $10,000 more. I can go to East Haven for $8,000 more, West Haven for $9,000 more. Why would I want to go to North Haven? I could start off with $200 a week extra in my paycheck. That may be part of the problem why we're not getting as many applicants as we should be getting. We are definitely in the best town in the state of Connecticut. We have the best administration and the best department, both career and volunteer. But some people are looking, they're coming out, they're young, they have families, they want to buy houses. They're looking at that $10,000 may be the difference between a mortgage payment and a rent. So that may be part of the problem. But I don't think there's anything wrong with our department, career or volunteer. The chief, the deputy chief, assistant chief, everybody's doing a great job. You know, you mentioned Mike and you mentioned Rich Monaco. Two smart, very bright guys. If I had a company, I'd put them on my finance board. They're extremely smart and bright. It doesn't make them a chief of a fire department. They don't have not even 1 minute of fire department knowledge, not even a minute, other than what they hear and they read. I've been here 24 years. I've been to thousands of hours of meetings, thousands. I've been with everybody here. Live burns, fire out. If the chief asked me to run the department for 1 hour, I can't do it. I have no idea how to do it. They can do it better than I could. Any one of the firefighters could do it better than I could, because that's what they do for a living. That's their job. No one else could do it. No one else could do it, trust me. Have some faith in the people that we put in these seats. That's all I'm asking. Nothing else. I want this town to grow and grow and grow. And you need, if you pick leadership like we have, fire department, police department, board of ed, public works, tree department, engineering department, finance department, if you put all these people, let them do their job, do what they do best. I don't want to see my chief go run public works. What does he know about a dump truck or a garbage truck? What does he know about that? Nothing. So why would you want someone else to run our department? Or why would you want someone to run the police department? I just don't understand it. I just can't think about that for some reason.
Okay, may I respond?
Yeah,
to some
absolutely.
comments you made? First of all, when I spoke at my ending comment at the public hearing, when I told the story about my mother, was the first time ever I publicly said anything about maybe we should be hiring some female firefighter paramedics. That was a completely new issue, and I thought because we seem to be hiring, we hired 2, these 2 are gonna be approved, probably 2 more next year. I thought it was an appropriate time to say, maybe we should hire some females, and these gentlemen have no problem with me saying that.
No way.
My mother didn't make a claim of sexism when she was, what I said that night was she was embarrassed because the 4 attendants there were all male, and she was in a nightshirt and a diaper, and that's all she had on. So she was embarrassed. But of course,
I'm sure
she was treated and transported by these males.
With the utmost
So-
respect.
So, absolutely. So, and then for you to say that I'm making a claim of sexism because there's no females, that is totally false. My claim at the public hearing about sexism had to do with the fact that at least 3 members of the Board of Finance felt the same way that I did but that I seem to be the only one subjected to criticism, and me being the terrorist, me trying to micromanage, that was the very precise limit of my sexism claim. It has nothing to do, you spoke, let me speak, has nothing to do with the fact, I'm not making that claim because all of the career firefighters are male. I would never do that. That it was just because of how I was treated for having the same opinions about the fire department than at least 3 other members of the Board of Finance. That's what it was about. And as far as your analogy to the Democratic Town Committee, you're absolutely right. All of the officers are female. Should you find that to be sexist? Absolutely not. But I'll tell you, if you came to a Democratic Town Committee meeting and got up to speak and the 5 women officers walked out on you, then maybe you could feel a little insulted, because that's what I felt when they walked out on me. And that's my opinion, and the chairman has explained his opinion on it, and so to me, it's over. I said at the Board of Selectmen meeting I was going to come here and ask the chairman his opinion, and he gave me his answer, and I accept his answer. But there is no claim here that the fire department is sexist because they don't have it. My claim about sexism had to do with my opinion being treated differently, even though it was the same opinion as 3 other members of the Board of Finance. And let me just tell you, you want to say, well, why, you do understand how our government works, that the Board of Finance makes the recommendation of the budget, that all the department heads, not just the fire chief and the police chief, but the head of the library, the head of Park and Rec, all these folks come before the Board of Finance, and the Board of Finance has to balance, as Mr. Frieda has often said on many occasions, has to balance what the town needs and what it could afford. That is the function of the duly elected Board of Finance. And so I have every right to give my opinions at Board of Finance meetings as to what I think that they should do, and that's what I have done, and what other members of the Board of Finance have done. So to say that no matter, we have a lot of professional people in our town government, not just the chief. And they make requests all of the time, every year, year after year. And their requests are very often cut by the Board of Finance. You know that. So it's not like just because you're an expert, you get what you want. It has to, the elected Board of Finance must evaluate what is needed versus what is affordable. And then they recommend a budget, and then that will be decided at the referendum on May 21st. That's how the process works. Not every department head, merely by being an expert, gets everything that they want. Otherwise, we'd have a lot more of everything in this town.
I understand.
So, so you're always saying, and this is one of the points that I was trying to make, that the fire department is saying, why are we being scrutinized so closely? Why are we being picked on? My response is, because it was the fire department that requested a 50% increase in staff in last year. So of course you're going to come under scrutiny. It has nothing to do with disrespect. I will tell you, at a Board of Selectmen meeting maybe 6 months ago, Mr. Marino, the union president, was there, and I immediately tried to commend him, his career firefighters, the volunteer firefighters. I tried to say how lucky we are to have such great firefighters, both career and volunteer. And you know what he said to me? He goes, "We don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that from you. We don't need to be told that we're doing a good job." That's what he said to me. I have the utmost respect. I have voted for every fire apparatus since I've been on the Board of Selectmen. Last year, I was the only elected official, besides commissioners on the Fire Commission, that advocated. I advocated strongly to hire 4 firefighters. That seems to be forgotten. But after studying thousands of medical calls, not only in North Haven, but in other towns, I came to a conclusion about a Monday through Friday day shift. The same conclusion that Mr. Monaco and Mr. Hallahan reached. And for that, I have been been turned into some sort of terrorist monster trying to micromanage. I have every right, as any taxpayer does, to give my opinions on how taxpayer dollars are spent. Of course, great weight will be given to the experts, which is the chief, who I have great respect for. I did not mention the chief once in my 12-page letter, 12-page speech at the public hearing. I don't see how I was insulting the chief. The chief and I correspond by email very respectfully. He gives me information when I request it. So I don't understand why I am viewed upon as being disrespectful. I agree that we are very fortunate to have some of the best firefighters, not only in the state, but in the country, working for the North Haven Fire Department. I have no problem with supporting all of the apparatus, which you know I have done.
Yes.
And equipment as well, whether it's breathing apparatus or other types of apparatus. I have supported all of it without question, without hesitation. But when a request for 16 firefighters comes forward, a 50% reduction, I believe I have to fulfill the oath of my office and look at it closely. So what did I do? I tried to educate myself, and I tried to learn, and I gave opinions. And, that's what I've done. And if that is a problem for you, then I don't know what to say. I thought I approached it in an appropriate manner, and the chairman acknowledged in February that he thought I approached it.
You
in an
absolutely did.
appropriate
And let me ask you to be kind enough to curtail your remarks for right now, and because I know there are other people that
Sure,
would
all
like
right.
to speak.
Well,
So
he was commenting
No,
directly
I
to me.
understand. I appreciate it.
I'll sit down, and that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Someone else? Yes.
Chiefs, commissioners,
Yes.
if you don't mind, I will give you my back.
Please.
My name is Jennifer Atkins, 67 Upper State Street, and I am one of those volunteer firefighters. And I can tell you, and I want to put this to rest once and for all, because this has been beat like a dead horse. We are tired of the same conversation over and over again. It is now 10 past 7, and the board has not taken care of any business. But we have conducted the same conversation again and again and again. There's a song, Let It Go, and we ask that you at this point let it go. I will answer for myself as well as most of the volunteers. We, as a collective group, decided to go to this meeting. And in doing so, we felt it would be nice to be respectful and wear our Class A uniforms, because that's the department we come from. When you talk about the committee or the department and call us anything or refer to us, you are also referring to our chief. He is our leader. So if you admonish our department, you're admonishing our chief, because that is our leader and he takes the bullet for us. We protect our brothers, our sisters of this department, our commissioners, and our administrative staff. We did that on our own. We were also working, we're volunteers. The most of us that were standing there in Class A were volunteers. We work 8, 10, 12-hour shifts during a day or overnight. 1, 2 jobs at a time. We were tired. We listened to everything you had to say, all 8+ pages of your speech. And then you got up for more. At some point, we would like to go home to our families, have dinner, relax, and do what we have to do for our own homesteads. Because whether it be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, or Sunday, day or night, 24/7, 365, holiday, being in the grocery store, the pharmacy, or church, we leave what we are doing to go and serve these community and these townspeople. And it is a calling for us. We don't get paid $60 for doing it. But I would invite you anytime to get in my gear and go through a live burn or stay at an overnight at the firehouse when we have a standby, or some sort of an emergency that nobody thinks is ever going to happen in town, like we had last year at Explosion. I was there after working all day at my day job, got in my gear, went to the firehouse, came here for drill, listened to the scanner going off, and we all got on our engines and went to our respective places that we were told to go to. I personally didn't get home until 5:30 in the morning, and I was gone since 6:30 in the morning, doing my job. Got home at 5:30 and went back to my day job after serving this community. You insult us or question us, you insult and question everybody. I understand all of your research. I have done a lot of research on things. All of us collectively have credentials that we just don't even use at times because we have so many credentials. We take classes in the town of North Haven, we take classes outside, we take classes at the State Academy, wherever they send us. But that does not make us an expert. It gives us knowledge, but I am not a Monday morning quarterback to then turn around and tell the chief how to run this department just because I stayed at a Holiday Inn or read a book. Okay? I need you to understand, when we left that meeting, we were tired. We collectively and respectfully sat through everybody's first line of speaking. At that point, we collectively made a decision and said, we want to go home to our family. And if there's anything else that we missed, we can watch it on TV. We ask you to please put this to bed and get on to the larger, bigger subjects at hand. We have fire trucks with rust holes in them right out in this bay. I invite you to go look if you haven't done it already. Take a ride in it. See what it's like to shake in a fire engine at 3 o'clock in the morning while you're on your way to hopefully help somebody in their worst time of need. Be it a fire, a hazmat incident, a carbon monoxide call, an accident where somebody is crushed into a car, whatever the case may be. Everybody talks about us going to fires. We don't do medicals as volunteers, correct, but we do everything else. We train like the paid guys, if not double, because we have to be just as good as them, because they do this all day long. We do it when our pagers go off, whatever time of day or night that is. And we put our lives on the line for what? You tell me. We do it because we love it, and we do it for this community. And I wish you would just move on to the bigger situations that really, really need to be dealt with. The equipment that we need in order to get on them to go to your house or anybody else's and help them in their worst time of need. At this point, you are putting, I feel like, a price tag on every individual in this community. What price is it? All right? And as far as your mother is concerned, I'm sorry she had to go through that. I was also an EMT elsewhere. I've been a firefighter, and I've been a 911 dispatcher. I understand where you're coming from. I've dealt with cultural issues, I've dealt with female issues, I've dealt with male issues. You can always ask when you call dispatch and see if you cannot get female personnel to respond. Because great, the guys from the career house were there and took care of your mother at bedside, but when she gets in the ambulance, who's she going to be with? More men? What are you going to do to mandate AMR or whoever it is that's responding? Ask. It's worth a shot. We've had that in the past, and we've always tried to provide when I was a dispatcher. So I'm sorry your mother had to go through that. But can we please just move on to the bigger issues? Thank you.
Are there any other persons looking to comment during public open session? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. I'd like to reconvene the North Haven Fire Commission meeting for April 23rd, 2019. Any further business coming before this commission? I'd like to announce, hearing none, I'd like to announce that the next Board of Fire Commission meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 28, 2019 at 6 p.m. in the training room at the Northeast Company 4, 366 Washington Avenue, North Haven, Connecticut. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And, you know what, you're right. I see our new union president is here. Jeffrey, do you have any thoughts or comments? Congratulations on your appointment and as new union chairman. We look forward to working with you. Absolutely. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second? All in favor? This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.